some time while you're actually waiting for your presenter to come.
But this was planned too. Like we wanted her to speak.
One of the things we do at ThoughtWorks is we sometimes make lightning talks. Okay, do I just roll that?
Click it on. Probably.
Yeah. Yeah, we do lightning talks, and one of the formats we have chosen for lightning talks is Pechakucha. Have any of you ever heard of Pechakucha before? It's a couple of people.
So, yeah.
So,
okay. Have you been to a Pechakucha?
But I know like a company that does them for fun after work.
Awesome.
Oh, cool. Just like us.
Yeah.
So the idea is like, it's a presentation format that was actually invented in a bar in Japan from some designers. And it's 20 slides, 20 seconds each. So it's all about getting through a message very quickly and make it very concrete and basically distribute it to people and make it fun and make it. One of the subjects I have chosen to talk to in one of those nights that was done was about Hollywood analytics, and this is an open data group, so we thought it might be like a good fit to kind of like fill some of your time before you go into details with Excel today. So I'm just going to give you over that presentation. It takes 6 minutes and 40 seconds. Right. Cool. So after this introduction, we're going to talk about Hollywood analytics and how to predict the next blockbuster. The reason why I can actually talk to it is because before joining ThoughtWorks myself, I was working on a software system that does exactly that thing. It predicts the next blockbuster. So why is the important industry? Well, the film industry is generating 34.7 billion. That was in GBO in 2012. It gives the jobs to 2.1 million people in US alone, and it creates 1.3 million admissions in US and Canada. So it's a big business. But if we are looking into the real numbers, out of your GBO, you have to obviously take out any taxes, any rental costs, any distribution costs. So in the end, as a studio, you don't really pocket that much money. Out of the studio was working, out of the 19 films that were predicted within a year, only 6 of them were actually predicted to make profit. Everything else was in loss. So you would wonder, why would you bother making a film if you know it's going to make loss? And that's because you don't just make money through the cinema, but you make money through the film's life cycle, so on the different releases. So we are faced with a series of questions when it comes to actually making a film. And then we're going to go through those questions. The first question is like, which films are you greenlighting? So you're going to have to do a script visual evaluation. There is only one company in Hollywood actually that does script evaluation, and that's why you probably get Fast and Furious 7 and Good to Die Hard 12, because they evaluate the script and it looks like a script that is going to be successful due to the data. Next question is, how shall I release my film? Shall I just get it into the cinema, or shall I just release it directly on DVD or on TV? So for example, the specific film was released directly into DVD in the US because they didn't think it was big enough for the US cinema market, but it did very well, and internationally it will later on release theatrically. The next question is, when shall I release? So you have to look what's the competitive landscape, who or other studios are releasing what type of films are they releasing, what if you release that film a specific years before, and so on. Also things like holiday and events play as well into when you should be releasing a film. The next question is, how much do I think I will be making? And that's a little bit of a guess sometimes, so you just put your finger up to figure out how much you're going to make. But also there is a lot of boost in between the marketeers and the distributors, or so saying, if you give me more money to market that film, I think I can make more, and so on. So there is a lot of like exercising there. Another question is, how do I think my film will decay? So obviously the films do great on the first week, on the first weekend, and then as the lifeline progresses, your GBO goes down. So you have to predict specifically how much admissions and how much GBO you will be making throughout the film being in the cinema. Next question is, how do I make all those decisions? How much do I know how GBO will have, my ad pipe, and so on? Well, if you have a film, let's say like Darkest Hour, you look out on similar boom, boom, bam, bam films, disasters, and figure out how much they have worked out, when did they release, how much money did they make, how much money did we spend on that, but to do the same for that film. You obviously can get that very wrong, and that's an example of the Lone Ranger, where you have A-lister actors and producers, you have an established franchise, but this again was one of the worst flops ever, with an estimated 20 million loss film. So you do get it wrong. So if you do get it wrong, what do you need to do? Well, you need to react and adapt. So you need to change your release day in other territories, in other countries. You need to throw more money into it or take money out of it to minimize the damage. Or you might as well just choose to just put it out on DVD or Netflix straight away, just to make as much as possible when the hype is still high. So if you have all that data, why can we not get right? Why can we not predict how much a film will make accurately? Well, the problem is that the market has changed. People are having different consumption methods, and we are moving from a US market to an international market for film. So there are loads of elements within that which we don't have enough data for. But we have been getting it right in a few cases, like Netflix, Amazon, and so on, Hulu services. They've been able to predict what are we watching and give us recommendations of what we probably would like to watch. Therefore, they suggested that House of Cards will be something that lots of people will like to watch, and it did happen. They didn't though create, they say original content, but it's not original content, it's a copy of a previous 1980s series. Other areas we're getting it right is with the social media, so Topsy will be indexing how well your trend is performing, and also if you go to a specific cinema and you have a loyalty card, they will be very good in predicting what films you will be likely to watch. But where analytics is needed the most is actually on doing some scenario planning. So being able to see things like, okay, if I change my release day, how is my GBO will be affected? If I market during that time, how will be my GBO affected, and so on. So there is nothing that can help you to have an idea of how well you're performing. So the idea was, would cool data solve all my challenges if I'm in a studio? Not really, because we are moving into a rent market. People don't want to own DVDs anymore, they just want to pay as you go. We have huge cinemas in the house, so you don't really need to go to the cinema. And we are moving from a US market to an international market. What I suggest to the film industry is to move and follow the music's example. So, for example, nowadays you hear loads of music that you would never hear just because it's on your Spotify list, on your suggested list. And that's where the film industry is going as well. Because of services like YouTube and Netflix, you probably end up watching much more than you would ever watch. There are still obviously loads of skeptics thinking, okay, big data can help me out, figure out, but what about being creative? You know, big data cannot make be a creative person, which is true. But the truth is that you have not been being creative so far because you just keep making the same films over and over again. So maybe what you should do, and where I see the potential to the film industry, is to use the big data to figure out what would be a good script, what would make a film successful, not because of previous successful films exactly, but following the trend and a plot that will make the film successful. And that would be it from me. Hopefully I filled enough time for the next person to come, or
if not,
I can do that again.
Okay. Any questions for Elena?
Yeah? Yep.
How do you know when it's been 20 seconds on a given slide? Do you have a countdown, or do you just rehearse it?
Well, there is a countdown, but sadly there is a little bug on PowerPoint. So the first slide can never be 20 seconds, even if you said it would be 20 seconds. And it can be 13 sometimes, it can be 14, 15, or whatever, so it kind of messes up with the numbers. So it's very difficult. But, yeah, I'm practicing.
And what's the format called again?
Betsakuta.
Betsakuta.
Yes. It forces you to be to the point. It's quite difficult. It's very difficult to keep track of how quickly your slides can fly away in front of your eyes.
It's very difficult, actually.
Mm.
But we do them quite often here. We do them about once a month at ThoughtWorks. So if you guys want to come back and hear more talks like this is actually one of the most interesting talks from the last Pechakucha that we had that Vivian came to. Sadly it didn't win. You didn't win. We give a
There is a
trophy.
competition.
We give a trophy out and a
It's
prize
very-
as well.
it's a very
And we also welcome external people that don't work at ThoughtWorks, to present as well. So we've had people from the New York City Department of Education and Startup Bus, I don't know, other organizations like that do really cool things. So we welcome presentations.
I'm up next
Yeah,
one.
yeah, I think that would be really fantastic.
Tell me the competitors first.
Oh, we don't know. We don't know. But yeah, it's pronounced Pechakucha or Pichakucha if you're Japanese, and it means chit chat in Japanese. So it's just a way to get lots of facts and talk about a portfolio or a project very quickly, because people, if it's something they like, if it's a topic they like, they can ramble on and on about it. So it's a way to like keep it super condensed.
Exactly, and I can talk for hours on those things, but
And was this just one that you were interested in, or do you have experience working with quality?
I have experience in it, and I also find it very fascinating and interesting.
Nice.
Where it's going to be taken now, big data and analytics are progressing.
Our data practice at ThoughtWorks is expanding a lot. It's been growing for like the past 2 years, right?
Yep.
And it'll continue to grow over the next,
Forever.
who knows? But it's something that is it's a hot topic. I mean, Vivian, you know, for tons of companies. So they're always asking us, you know, what can you do with our data, or like how can we automate different things and kind of like make everything more efficient. So our data scientists are getting a lot of work right now. So if anybody's looking for a job at ThoughtWorks and wants to be a data scientist or is a data scientist, you know, we want you guys. Also, hit me up if you want to come to the next Pechakucha, because we have a lot of beer and always, oh my god, always beer. We drink so much. Are you tipping this, Vivian? Is this going to be online?
Yes.
Well, I guess it's not as simple as how workers like to do. But, yeah. We also have pizza. Okay. Do you want the microphone? For
That
this
would be good.
camera? And then the VGA HDMI. I think that this will.
It works. Hello. Testing. Boom. Never talked by mic before this time. I feel like I'm singing star. Guys, can you hear me all right? How many of you have been Meetup before with my group? Well, oh, I see. Cool. So I think half of you are new friends. So since we're still expecting your speaker, by the way, it's the first time ever happened in the group for the past 60 meetups. So I just introduced this meetup quickly. So I started meetup last June. And when I started this, I was hoping I can do more volunteer work. I used to make soup, make sandwiches for homeless. I feel like teaching people the skill can last longer. So I started to teach. And this is the website, it's called nycopendata.com. I archive their past event. If you click on event, the link is nycopendata.com. So like last week, we have building interactive web application by Shiny. So I archive all their sites, my desktop recording and remote recording, and a few demos I did on this topic. So I was hoping every event can be reusable. You can learn this on your own. And usually when I do my event, I will teach for 1 or 1.5 hours and ask people to apply the skill they just learned. So this is one homework submission people could do after their session. And I also post their solution to the GitHub. And the next 2 links is like, how can you learn on your own? I give you directions for the resources. We have done a lot of good events. most of the events are designed based on my own interest, so it's very data science heavy. Like I teach carrot package by R, like how can you do classification regression by R, and also I invite experts from Tableau to show how you can call R from Tableau. I also invite experts from different fields like energy data analytics. People actually work for Con Edison. And book author like Open Data Now. So we actually host the event here. This is the book author. You can tell it's the same wall here. And this is slides and recordings. So, I also do interesting things like I'm not sure how many of you have seen this visualization called New Yorker subway income. Have you heard about that income visualization? If you search for New Yorker subway income, you can find a very good D3GS visualization like this one.
Oh yeah, we saw that.
Have you seen this one?
Yeah.
Which subway you want to check?
I remember the ones that go from Brooklyn to Manhattan are most interesting.
Which one?
So like the 7.
7? Which station?
It doesn't matter. It's just interesting to see the differences.
So tells you the median income level around the subway station. So Long Island City have high income level, so this is Court Square. Grand Central have high income level. So I break this into 2 sessions. I first invite my data visualization engineer to show how you can do this D3GS. So here's the slides and recording. You can follow the step by step to roll this D3GS package. And I also invite Professor from Dartmouth. So he showed us how you can grab the data from census website. It's this one, location data query. So you grab data from census website and follow the tutorial and clean the data set up so you have the basic data set you can use in the visualization. So I tend to host events like really cool real world cases. And it's almost 1 year old, the meetup, and we're going to throw a party. This was my student, and he took my R beginner class, and he invited his dad, mom, his fiance's parents, and his coworker, his boss. Him alone, he brought 10 people. So that was a very crowded graduation ceremony. That are my students. So if they work hard, they get extraordinary standing graduation certificate. And after their study, they need to do extra project using the tool. I haven't showed them how to use it. So the goal is I teach you how to fish, and you fish by yourself. That was the people proud to hear what they can do now. So since I start to teach a lot, people ask me whether I can deliver more intensive class. That's how I start my data science school called NYC Data Science Academy. And tonight we're going to host the first Excel class warm up. Like, those are 10 courses we're offering. Node.js, Python, with a focus on NumPy pandas. So it's data science by Python. We also teach very advanced R skills like knitter, how you can generate one report for different states. Like one click, you can generate tons of reports. And how you can do advanced web application by Shiny package. Also D3GS, Excel. I personally teach the beginner and intermediate R level. We are hosting their Hadoop class. It's really long, 17 weeks and 15 weeks. We enroll students every first week of the month, so we can have enough staff to support the students. So if you're interested, check this out. But if you don't have extra money, well, welcome to attend all my free events. It's just keep you learning. So also we have tons of upcoming events. Like next week, I'm teaching Hadoop 1 and 2. Get started. And 1 week later, we will invite the data scientist team from ThoughtWorks to share their work. And I will teach Bitcoin later, and while my teacher will teach, oh, actually this is my session. Okay, I'm teaching Node.js, and I'm teaching the city bike project I did. So I schedule events 2 months earlier because we have so many things we want to share with the group. So if you look at the calendar, we're fully booked, unless I'm not in town. If I'm in town, we always have events. So you can tell I'm not in town in June, and once I come back, there are a lot of things going on. Yeah, if you are interested, look into them and try to book them ahead of time. That's it. Any questions? By the way, the $5 is for dinner, so people won't feel so hungry and they have to leave around 7:30, 8. It takes us a lot of effort to put up each workshop. Also, our hosts have to be here, so at least there are 3 people's effort. And we need to rehearse or prepare all material. Make sure you have a productive night. And the membership due per month is for equipment. Like we offer Join Me, so you can share my screen from your side. You can see the coding. So if I turn this up and log in, you can share my screen using the Join Me link. And I also start to record since last week. Their machine is $800. I try to.
The recorder machine, and I threw a beach ball at it.
Everything is so expensive these days.
Sorry, Vivian. I'm glad it still works.
It works. I'm glad it works. Yes, let me introduce Mary. And she has been doing training for the last 30 years. And the school just hired her as Excel instructor. And you can tell how deep her knowledge is from the curriculum. Like tons of stuff she will share with you if you take her class. And I think it will be the only offering during weekend. Yes. She can only do weekday after that. So check it out if you use Excel all the time. And yeah.
Sure. Kelly, do you know or just? Okay. Can I plug this in? Yeah. Do you want this? This extension?
We can use my laptop as long as you can get on network. I can share a screen with myself so I can record the desktop.
Okay, so you already have the files I sent.
Yes, I have the files, but it's fine. You can operate on your own machine, but I can share a screen and connect to the monitor. We tried this before; it works very well.
Okay.
Oops.
So. Okay, so I apologize for a little bit of jumping around. As Vivian said, my name is Mary DePerna, and my experience comes from starting out working with databases. I designed and developed systems for an insurance company and an airline, and I did that for a number of years, and then I went into something called EDP audit, which is reviewing other people's computer systems to make sure they're doing what they're supposed to do. Along that time, PCs came out, and so being the computer person in the accounting department, I got to learn how to use all the computers and to teach everybody how to use the computers. Then I went out on my own, and I've been doing consulting and training ever since. So I develop Excel spreadsheets, I develop Access databases, I teach people how to use them. I see what people are doing all over the place with this stuff. So I'm hoping to bring that knowledge to you guys here, okay? Let me just get a sense, how many people have been, I assume you all have been using Excel to some extent, is that correct? Is anybody not using Excel? Okay. How many people are in the finance area? Okay. How many people in retail or marketing? Okay. What other areas? Transportation, anybody? Fashion, anything like that? Pure, wait, which one is it?
I'm a lawyer.
You're a lawyer, okay, all right.
Different.
And is anybody in pure academia at this moment? Any of you guys? Okay. Any other areas that people are coming from? That they, yeah, what?
Break fix.
Sorry?
Break fix. I run a technical organization.
Oh, okay. Oh, I didn't ask for technical, right? And what kind of stuff does that do? Do you do?
We repair broken equipment.
Oh, okay. All right, good. Okay. So we're going to cover a lot of stuff today from the point of view of showing you lots of different techniques. It's not my goal to teach you all those techniques today, but you'll have access through the server at various completed worksheets that show all the techniques, and you'll get a chance to try some various things as soon as we get it all up. So I do apologize that I'm a little bit delayed. So,
can you briefly describe what you will cover?
yeah. Okay, what we're going to talk about today is we're going to start to talk about, well, we'll start off with a little warm-up with some simple techniques. And then we're going to talk about working with bigger files where we have multiple spreadsheets in the same file. And we're going to look at some techniques for working with those multiple sheets together so that when you have to format them, you can format them all at the same time. And we're going to look at how you can make something called a 3D formula that will cut across all the worksheets to give you a simple formula across multiple worksheets. And so we'll be working a little bit with multiple sheets in the same file. Then we'll take a step and we'll take a look at working with multiple files and links across multiple files. And we'll look at a trick to help prevent you from having chaos when someone changes the linked file without telling, yes, right, you're shaking your head. You've had that chaos, I'm sure. So we're going to look at a technique that would help with that. Then we'll move on and we'll talk about a little bit of functions and things like VLOOKUP and logical functions to get a sense of how those work. And then we'll spend a couple of minutes on charts. In particular, we'll look at an overlay chart and a data segmentation chart to give you a sense of how elaborate they can get. And then we'll spend a little bit of time with data summarization. We'll see how we can work with lists and quasi-databases in Excel. We'll see how we can filter them and sort them and subtotal them to some extent. We'll see how to make subtotals with formulas, but we'll also see how to make the granddaddy of all subtotals, which is pivot tables. Well, we won't see how to make it, but we'll see how it works, all right? And then we'll take a couple of minutes to do some data analysis with data tables. And then we'll wrap up with a demo of macros that can, so we can see some of the things that macros can do to help us make our life a little bit easier from an automation point of view.
2 more minutes, almost done.
2 more minutes, almost done. Okay. Did everybody already get linked up to the website so you can see the files?
Not yet.
Not yet?
I'm having trouble with the password.
Oh, okay.
It's disruptive. Change the double little I into one.
I've been trying that.
For some reason, it didn't work for me the first time, and I did it a second time, and it got me in. So I don't know if that helps you.
And what's the link? I'm sorry, is it NYC or
TW guest, I think.
Disruptive.
And
Change double I into one line.
perfect.
What's the website?
Oh, I'm gonna go to meetup.com, and I
The
know it's on
website
there.
is join.me/NYC-open-data.
Oh.
And I see a fair number of you have Macs. A couple of people have PCs. What versions of Excel are you guys working with? 2003, 2007, 2010, 2015? 10? How many people are working with 10 or 7? Oh, okay. Is anybody working with 15 or Office 360? 13. Did I say? It's been a long day, what can I say? I've already been to 3 different places in the last half an hour. We'll be looking at 2010, just so you know, as soon as we get up to it, okay? Okay.
Do you want to try my machine?
Yeah, I can. Do you have the access to the files on your
Yes.
machine? All right.
Somehow I did it without starting. Somehow your
Right.
I have this local.
Right, that's fine. We can just open it locally. And we can start it. Okay. For those of you that have the link, I'm going to ask you all to open the file called April 3rd. And can they see?
April 3rd
Okay.
meetup.
Sorry? Can you open it
April
all up?
3rd meetup.
April 3rd meetup, right? And you're probably all going to get a prompt or two, depending upon whether you're working with. Can you get yourself pulled up?
So the link, let me share with you the link, join.me/NYC open data. Can you see it? This is the link you can share my screen.
How many people got the file open? All right. While you were opening the file, did you notice you had a message? Right? Microsoft decided when they moved to Office 2007 that they would warn people if the files that you're opening, and could be Excel, could be Access, could be Word, could be PowerPoint. If any files that you are opening have A, a link to an external file, or B, a Visual Basic component,
Mandy, if you join me, I can see your name because you type your name and knock the door. It's like you are my guest in my house.
so
E? Yeah.
is everybody in? Okay. So
Isaiah?
is anybody else having difficulty not getting in? Or is anybody not getting in?
Felendy? Chris?
You're not in? Can Jared come?
Ax? Are you here for Meetup? Oh, sure.
I'm a thought worker.
Do you want to join us? We're teaching intermediate to advanced Excel skills today.
Awesome.
Yeah, grab a seat.
I actually can't stay. I just wanted to.
Okay. Allison?
Yes.
Awesome. Who else? Guys, believe me, it's really hard to.
Oh,
It's really hard to see the screen if you don't do join me.
Did you get yourself in?
No, I'm not.
Click the join me.
Can Jared go?
Okay guys, this is the username, password is D1S. And change to I to 1.
It's not working for me. I tried it.
It took me like 3 times for it to work. So
Tried it.
I guess you tried the same thing over and over again.
Maybe that's a good idea.
Have all of you have Wi-Fi? If you don't have laptop, you can access it from your cell phone. Join me have application. Sarah?
Right here. Thank you.
I don't have Wi-Fi. Who doesn't have Wi-Fi? Can you help? Who, if you have Wi-Fi, can you help your neighbors?
Yeah, I was going up there and.
Do I have all of you? Who haven't connected to join me? Let me know, please.
I haven't connected, but I have the files already.
But it's really hard to follow. Believe me, I have hosted 60 events. Once we start to program, you can see from far
Yeah,
away.
but you'll be able to see it on the machine.
About 15 times. It's okay if you want to go ahead.
Okay. I opened the files.
Right.
So,
Okay.
so you want the first file, right?
Yeah. Yes, and I was trying to explain. I was explaining the Microsoft's warning message that they have decided that they're going to take the stance of least resistance and warn you if you're using either of those two techniques, because in some past life people have used those techniques to invade other people's files. The fact that you're getting that message does not mean that there's a virus in the file, or that the file I mean, if it was Norton, or if it was you know, McCaffrey, one of those antivirus programs, they would be seeing a virus and they would be giving you a virus warning. But when you get that notice when you open an Excel file or a Word file or a PowerPoint file, it is simply telling you that you are using a technique that has in the past been used to, you know, corrupt your file. So if it's your own file, you know what the source is, then certainly enable the content, otherwise nothing you want to do is going to work. All right? So we have now opened up this work file. I'm going to get around the other side. And I'm going to try and make this larger, because of course now we're not on the version right now.
Thank you.
Let's do this out. Whoops, that's not right. Give the files.
I do have the files.
Okay, so on this first page, I wanted to talk about a few little, does everybody see the first page on this file? This is just a quick warm-up to give you some sense of some of the techniques that you can use to make your life in Excel much easier. A lot of them have to do with the control key. The control key in every circumstance is a power key. All right? How many people have used the control key for anything? Yeah, what do you use it for?
Shortcuts.
Yeah, like Control C, Control V, Control X, all of those are shortcuts for copying and pasting. What other situation have you used control keys? Sorry?
Control Z.
Control Z, the undo, that's a real useful one. None of those have I listed here because those are all shortcuts you can see on the menu. What I have listed here are shortcuts that you can use to do selections. All right? And I apologize, but it's hard for me to read this. Okay? If you click on any empty cell, everybody click on any empty cell, and hit Control A. Oh, jeez. Do we not have? Oh, I'm sorry, I'm on the Mac. It's got to be. On the Mac, it's Command. I apologize. How do I get rid of this? I'm a PC person. I'm sorry, guys. I have used the Mac, but gosh.
I'm coming.
Yes, I want to escape. Okay, and escape. Do I want to allow Cecil to join? Yes, right?
Yes.
Okay. Is everybody else joined now? Okay, good. All right. Click anywhere where there's no... Oh, jeez. Why does this keep popping up? I want to just click on the spreadsheet. This stuff can go away. I don't know what that is.
I don't know what that is.
Oh, okay. Click anywhere in the spreadsheet, and I guess on the Mac, it's Command. I apologize. Command. Yeah, can we make this... Did you get it on your screen? Can you see it?
I think that's small.
You can zoom it up on...
Guys, if you are in, you can click on to zoom in. Your Join Me have zoom in. It's right in the middle, the button. You can zoom in. You can also zoom in too.
Can we make this bigger? This for Windows, I can make the text bigger. I don't know. That had it on.
Text bigger?
Yeah, usually this is
Data.
No, well, okay, that's good enough.
Does this work?
Yeah, that'll work. That's good enough for now, but I wanted to put the screen share. Okay.
Better?
Yeah, let's, okay. All right, that was a shortcut. Okay, so Control A, Microsoft decided they're going to reuse keys in lots of different places. If you happen to be in an empty cell, and now I'm going to say Control, but on the Mac it's Command, on the PC it's Control. All right? Control A, when you're on no cell, will highlight the entire worksheet. That's really useful if you want to change the font or anything like that. But I'm going to ask everybody to put your cursor on B4 and try Control A again, or Command A, and in that case, it does a completely different area. It highlights a region. And Excel treats a region as a continuous set of... You're shaking your head. Did it not work for you? Are you good?
Well, No, well, I can't actually click on whatever you're doing, so I was trying to download it, but my company just blocked it, so.
Oh, okay.
I'll get it in a minute. Just keep going.
All right, okay. So, depending upon what cell you're on, the control key is going to do different things. All right, so control A will be everything, or it could be a region. All right, but you also can do control shift, and again, it could be command shift. Command shift space. Oh, come on.
Command shift space doesn't work.
No.
Do you want to use your laptop instead?
Yeah, then I'm sure it's going to work.
I just tried the control shift space and it did the same thing. Is that right?
One of them? Yeah. What do I need to do here? Oops.
I don't think it works this way. You have to use a Mac.
Okay.
Do you have HDMI?
No, that was the whole question that I was asking all day today.
No, they don't have. They have the HD TV. They don't have it.
You can use my computer if you want.
Yes. You asked the question, is it supposed to do the same thing as Control A? And yes, Command Shift Space is supposed to do the same thing as Control A at this moment. If you take a look at what I've said on this spreadsheet, it gives you the hint down the left-hand side and the command keys on the right-hand side. All right? Try Control Space.
With what selected? Just one cell?
If you have a single cell selected and you try Command Space, you should get a whole column, right? And can command, yes?
Yes.
Yep.
All right, and so everybody try the other two. There are a bunch of commands on that list. I want to try, since I can't get into the screen right now, just try them, see the differences. Those are quick ways to highlight regions. And again, region is a continuous area on the worksheet, all right? Whether it doesn't have to have something in every cell, but every corner that it touches, there's something in that region. So it'll quickly highlight that region for you so you can then go ahead and do all of your other activities. Click on any other cell and it deselects. There's no specific deselect. Any other cell will deselect. Okay. Now, a lot of other things that we can do this. All right. If you highlight any set of areas, and I think most of you probably know this, if I highlight any set of areas, if I hold the Control or Command, I can highlight discontinuous areas. Oh, Jesus. Excuse me. Sorry. Okay. If I highlight a range and then I press the Command or the Control key while I highlight, I can highlight additional ranges. So I can highlight across multiple sections of the spreadsheet that may or may not be contiguous, which is useful when I want to do something to a whole set of different sheets. That's the Control addition. All right. We also have a whole bunch of navigation keys which are very useful if your hands are on the keyboard. The Control key makes all the directional keys power keys. So if I hit the Command or the Control down arrow, it jumps in an unbroken range. If I happen to be on an empty sheet, try it. Put your cursor on A4, hit Command or Control down, and you'll jump right to A8. If I hit it again, I skip over the empty range, I jump to the next full range. Down again, I skip over the empty range, go to the next full range. If I actually go to column B where I have more data, so I'm now in B12 and I use Command down, I jump down to B14. The next one jumps down to B17. So each Control arrow will jump one continuous range depending upon whether you're on an empty cell or a non-empty cell. If you're on the end of a full cell, it'll go until it finds the next full cell. If you're on a full cell and there's a full cell adjacent, it'll go until it finds the end of the full cells. And these become really useful when your hands are on the keyboard and you want to do copying and pasting, and we'll see some of that as we go along. Okay? Another neat trick when you're working with the control key, again, we're just doing fast warm-up. I want everybody to highlight a bunch of cells, doesn't matter how many cells. Type the number 1, but instead of pressing enter, press control enter. And that's a fast way to enter the same value in a range of cells. So somebody's keyboard stuck?
Yeah.
Okay. Are you good? Okay. So control enter will highlight will enter whatever you just typed into every cell that's been selected. Nice. Okay. A couple of other neat little things. Control semicolon gives you today's date. Whoops.
Ooh.
Sorry, today's time. Control. What should be today's date? And I guess we have it. This worksheet is set for the time, but it would be today's date. Yeah. I guess we have this set to
Mary,
be.
can you press yes?
Yes.
Awesome, thank you. Oops. Click yeah.
Okay. All right. And my favorite, I want everybody to scroll so that you kind of are looking at the area down around row 24. You need to see row 24, 25, 26, 27 on your worksheet. My absolute favorite control key is control or command tilde.
Next to the 1.
Yeah, it's next next to the 1, and it.
Oh.
Why is it not working? Oh, come on. Is it just my machine that's not working?
It shows you all of the.
It shows you all the formulas, but okay, the
That's
key's
cool.
not working, so I'm going to go to the. Is it working for everybody else and just not me? I'm locked in because of whatever's happening here.
It should be control, not command for that one.
That one is control. Perfect. Thank you. Just see, Microsoft is really trying to drive me crazy. It's always command on the Mac except when it's not.
Same thing.
All right. This is my favorite key, particularly when you're given a spreadsheet that you don't know anything about it. All right. So you open the spreadsheet, use command, or use control tilde, and it shows you all of the formulas. All right. It makes the columns wider, and it shows you all of the formulas. It also turns off the formatting. So don't panic if all your dollar signs disappear. I had someone sit there for an hour trying to reformat the dollars with dollar signs because she didn't realize she had turned it into this sort of behind-the-scenes mode. So you can actually work with it in this mode if you choose to. So if you're trying to find all of the constants, it's really easy to see them in this view. If you're trying to look for inconsistencies in formulas, and there are other ways to do that, but in this view, it's really easy to see inconsistencies. And in fact, today I had a client that had a column where they had the base formula, 3% of that one, it happened to be salary increases. And for selected people, last year they added on top of the 3%. And she couldn't figure out which one she had added the extra hard-coded number. So when I told her this keystroke, she could see all the formulas and then the ones that said plus 15 or plus 32 or plus. So it was very easy for her to figure out where she had put extra salary increases. In this environment, people are getting extra salary increases, but I'm not going to complain. So that's my favorite keystroke, and it is a toggle, and which means if you happen to have a heavy finger and it'll go in, out, in, out, in, out, in, out. So, it's on, off. So keep it off if you're not interested in it, okay? On this sheet, I have one more extremely important control key. The control home, what does that do for you? Which is not the one on this keystroke, but control home. When you press control home, what does it do for you?
A1.
It goes to the top of the worksheet. If any of the worksheet is frozen, it goes to the first unfrozen cell. Control end, I hope there's an end key on the Mac, but maybe there isn't.
Might have to hold a function key down.
Yeah, I don't see which one it is, so I can't do it here, but does anybody have an end key on their keyboard? Control End, will bring you to the furthest used cell in the worksheet. All right, and now, big warning. Used cell means even if it has a format, but it's empty. So, again, example, I had a client accidentally use the great power key, Control Down, and he wound up, just like I just did, on row 1,000,000. Wasn't paying attention, typed the number, blah, 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 formatted the number, made it commas, so it's formatted, and then looked up and said, huh, I'm on the wrong cell. So he deleted it. 2 days later, he called and said, my worksheet is taking so long to calculate because the way that Excel figures out which of all the cells to calculate is by figuring out how big the range is. And so by having left a format in that cell, even though there was nothing in any of the other cells, it was trying, it was checking each cell to see if they had calculations, and it was taking 5 minutes, well, maybe not 5 minutes, but 60 seconds every time he entered a number because it would try and recalculate everything. All he had to do was clear the cell, go back to the top, save the file again, and it got rid of that. So be aware if suddenly you have a worksheet that's gigantic, and you didn't mean it to be gigantic, or it's taking really slow, use this Control End, and you'd have to do it on each of the tabs to find out whether, if it was one of them, it was no good. Yeah?
Are there statistics on that kind of, does it give you feedback in case you accidentally did that anywhere?
That's what the Control End does for you.
Okay.
There aren't really statistics that tell you what, but when you save the file, if yesterday it was, 5 kilobytes and today it's a megabyte, that would be a hint. All right, but I don't remember that there's any statistics. Maybe if you looked on the info page, it might have something about it, but it's not obvious. Okay. All right, and then question? Yeah.
Is that why sometimes the scroll bar gets tiny and you have to drag it? When you drag it a half an inch, it gets to the bottom of your actual data, and then.
Well, that may be one reason, but the other reason is that the scroll bar is supposed to be sensitive sensitive like logarithmically. The more you pull it, the faster it goes.
Right.
So I don't know exactly what, but it certainly could be, if it thought it was 1,000,000 rows, then the scroll bar would, you'd be thinking you're scrolling and it's going 2 or 3 rows at a time because it thinks there's 1,000,000 rows, okay? I'm going to go back up to my top. There's no...
The home and end key on Macs is the arrow keys. The up, down, left, right key.
Function.
Function arrow keys. So it would be command, function, up arrow. No, that's not it. Function, up arrow?
Left and right. It's
Left and right. Okay, command, function, left. Thank you. Okay, so the home is function left. The end is function right. Okay? All right, I wanted to go back up to the top of the worksheet because I just wanted to mention one other thing on this warm-up. The last thing I have on this warm-up sheet would, the last few, is there are other shortcut keys. The Alt key will tell you, and now this depends on which version of Excel you're working with, but the Alt key, is it just option? No, it must be function option. Normally what the Alt key will jump, and I don't know how to get it to be the Alt key, I apologize. The Alt key will tell you all the letters on the ribbon across the top here, so that Alt H would open the home ribbon, Alt T would open the tables ribbon, but it would show you what the letters are, so that if you're a keyboard maven, you could use those shortcut keys to get to choices within the ribbon. Again, I'm not 100% sure something is not working quite on this one.
It doesn't exist.
It doesn't exist in the Mac?
You can't paste values or paste formulas or anything. You have to use the little drop down the top left. Yes, you'd never be able to just use hotkeys to do paste values.
Right. No, those few it doesn't, but yeah, okay, on the Mac. But on the PC, on the PC there's lots and lots of shortcut keys. Okay, so we won't belabor that. And the last thing I want to show you, I'm going to flip back into formula mode. Control. And I'm going to show you way down at cell A43. There's a little known function called cell. And the function called cell has lots of different arguments in it. Depending upon what argument you put in it, it gives you information about the current file, all right, or the current cell, or the current, depending upon which value you put in. And you'll notice I put in the word file name in quotes, and there's, if you go into help, you'll see what all the choices are. So when I go back to look at the answer, what that tells me is the complete path that this file is saved in. Very neat way to keep track of which file you open by simply using that function. All right. Am I good? Warm up? Yeah.
I noticed that the path separator in the Mac is a colon, and you, on the PC I'm used to seeing a slash. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Yes. Yes. It's a backslash on the PC. It's a backslash on the PC. Right? Okay. Questions on the warm up? Are we good? All right. Then let's jump to the next sheet here. And does anybody know the keystroke to get to the next sheet? Control page down would bring you to the next sheet. Or you could simply click on the next sheet, and I'm going to ask you to click on the sheet called Sample 3D Formula. All right, let me just make this bigger again for everybody. Oops. Okay, here I have a worksheet. Remember I said I was going to talk about when you have a file with multiple sheets that work together. So for this purpose, all the blue sheets will work together. So I have what will be a cover sheet, and we'll look at the cover sheet in a second. And if we just click once on the sheet, each of the other sheets, I'm not going to make them all bigger, but you'll see that they all have basically the same structure. So everybody see that? They all have basically the same structure as the cover sheet. No, this is okay. Oh, can everybody see that, the top sheet reasonably well? No, they don't need to see the individual sheets. They can see it on the... Okay. All right. If you look at the cover sheet, you can tell. I do use Macs, but not on a regular basis, so I'm... If we look at the cover sheet, you'll notice I haven't got a formula everywhere. I have some missing information. But I do have a formula in cell B7. If you click on B7, and I'm going to flip into formula mode again. I told you I'd use it a lot. I have a sum formula in there. Everybody knows the sum formula, right? What does a sum formula normally do? Adds what?
A range.
A range. Numbers in a list. All right? But if you have worksheets that are adjacent, they don't need to be the whole file, but they do need to be adjacent. And if the thing that you want to summarize is in the same cell for all of the sheets, the whole rest of the sheet could be completely different, but the thing that you want to summarize is in the same cell, you can use the sum so it cross-sections across all the underlying files, sheets, and we'll give you a subtotal. All right? And that is what this formula is doing for us. You'll notice it says not just sum B1 through B7, it says sum of finance printing B7. And what that means is start at the finance sheet and go all the way to the printing sheet and add up all the B7s. Awesome, right? That's really helpful, okay? And it is completely copyable. So I'm going to ask you all to copy that formula. And we're going to copy it into all the sections that are blue. And you're going to see how spastic I am in doing this. I'm going to do one at a time. If I do control, how can I paste this, guys? How many different ways can I paste this?
Double click on the crosshairs.
I could double click on the crosshairs, yep.
Copy and paste.
Whoops, but I'm not good at double clicking, so I'm not going to double click on the crosshairs. I'm going to do it the other way. Someone else said copy and paste, okay? So I'm going to highlight and paste. If I use paste on the ribbon or Control V, and since I'm having difficulty with the ribbon, I'm going to use Control V, that paste pastes everything. The format, the background, the borders, everything. And I screwed up my worksheet now. Because maybe I wanted it all to be yellow, but obviously I didn't, or else I couldn't do this now. But notice I also wiped out my underlines, and now I have dollar signs on everything. So I'm going to use Control Z to undo that. And instead of using pure vanilla paste, I'm going to use the paste that somebody alluded to. I'm going to click the drop-down arrow on my paste ribbon, in the home ribbon on the paste choice. And if you're on a PC, you actually have more choices. But on the Mac, we only have several choices, but there are two that are really useful. One is formulas. If you simply choose paste formulas, it will copy the contents without the numerical formatting, without the bordering, without the shading. All right? The second one that might be useful, not in this case because we don't want the background, but if you want the background and the numerical formatting but not the borders, then the third choice, which says without borders, is very useful. All right? I'm going to just use formulas because I don't want to wipe out the yellow. And so when I do that, I now have pasted my formula into all those cells, and I haven't wiped out the formats, either color-wise or border-wise, in the receiving section. Okay? Now, okay, so we've been working with this worksheet. We have 4 or 5 underlying sheets that are all similar. All right? Boss comes in and says, now we're going to start to have travel. We're going to pay travel. So you have all these sheets that you have. You've got a summary sheet, you've got the finance sheet, you've got the printing sheet, you've got the real estate sheet. We need to insert and modify all of those sheets. If we select all those sheets at the same time, everything we do once will apply to all those sheets. So if we click on the top sheet, and we have to be clicking down in the tab, so we click once on the cover sheet, which is called Sample 3D Formula, and then how do we tell the system to select a range normally? What key?
Shift.
Shift, same key. If I press and hold the Shift key while I select the last sheet, which in this case is the printing sheet, so it's selecting all the blue sheets, all of the blue sheets are selected. The hint to you that you did it right is up in the title bar somewhere. It should say group. Mine is probably being covered by this thing here. It should have the name of the file and the word group next to it. Just move that out of the way. Okay. All right, thank you. So if you look at the top of the screen, you'll see it now has the name of the file with the word group. When you are grouped, every single action you take is going to apply across all the sheets. So how can I insert a row between other compensation and bonus? Normally. I can click on the number 10. Right-click, or I'm not going to right-click here because I don't know how to do that on this particular mouse. I'm going to go to my home ribbon. I'm going to choose Insert. It'll should insert a whole row. In row 10, column A, I'm going to type travel. Let's all do this, see if we can get it all done. All right. Now, I'm going to flip into formula mode. Control tilde. And I do not want to copy the bonus, the formulas here down when I'm in group mode. Because what it will do is it'll copy from each sheet whatever was in row 9 down into row 10. So I would wind up with whatever amount was in bonus on all of the underlying sheets for each one separately. But if you notice column D and E have formulas that are legitimate. So I flipped into this mode so that you could see it. I'm going to tell the system to copy those 2 formulas down. All right. I'm going to get out of formula mode. And now I need to get out of group mode so I can see the results. All right. To get out of group mode when you have multiple sheets is to simply click on any sheet that's not currently selected. So I'm going to click on the orange sheet. the next orange sheet. And that would, we're going to get off the sheet in a second, but that takes us out of group mode. Yeah.
And then this error that I can't insert because it was back to private data.
Then you must have, you have selected too many sheets. You should have stopped the printing. So what you need to do is click warm-ups to unselect, then start again. Click the blue, just and then click, and then shift click at the last blue. From sample right to right to okay.
What does shift click do?
Shift click highlights everything between what's currently selected and wherever you're clicking. And it works within a spreadsheet and it works across sheets. So it's really helpful actually when you're trying to select a range. You can click on one corner and then shift click on the other corner that may be, hundreds of cells away, and it'll highlight the entire rectangle. Shift is a range, control is discontinuous.
And now go do what you need.
Did everybody get out of group mode, which was very important to do? All right. So let's click back on the real estate tab, which is kind of in the middle, and let's just plug in a value for travel, 77 or something. All right. So we plugged in a value in one of the underlying sheets. Let's go back to our 3D formulas, which is the cover sheet. And now we didn't put in our 3D formula yet on that new row, so let's now copy the formula that was in row 9 on only the cover sheet down. And voila, it pulls up all of the underlying values in that sheet. Okay? One last thing with 3D, is everybody with me so far? One last thing with 3D formulas. They work even when you add more sheets between the endpoints. So, what I'm going to ask everybody to do is to press the, I'm going to say control, but it's probably the command key, and drag the real estate tab, which should duplicate the sheet. Maybe that's control.
Yeah, it does.
All right, I'm going to cheat. I'm going to use move or copy, but I'm not on the right sheet. Yeah, move or copy. I'm going to copy it in front of payroll, create a copy. By dragging it, you can copy it manually. I'm having trouble dragging, so I'm going to do it this way. So now I've added a second sheet, all right? I added another sheet in the middle. Go back to the cover sheet, and you'll notice that the totals have all increased automatically because you inserted between the two endpoints, all right? So those are some techniques to work with multiple sheets in the same workbook that have the same format. All right. It doesn't have to be 100% the same to make the 3D formulas work, though. I have another example here just quickly to take a look at. Click on the first, let's click on the detail 1 sheet, which is the second orange sheet. And let's look at that. You don't have to read it, just see that it's a giant sheet, it's got lots of rows. But up at the top on row 1, there are formulas that add up all the numbers. All right? It's a big sheet, lots of rows. Let's click on the sheet detail 2, and it's the same basic structure left to right, but it's much shorter. But it too has totals across the top. All right? And as you might guess, detail 3 is going to be the same thing. Big sheet, totals across the top. If I now go back to the sheet called 3D different structures, you will see that on this sheet I don't even have all the details. I simply have, and let's make this bigger so we don't all go blind. In row, everybody click your cursor on B3, and you'll notice B3 has a 3D formula as well that says add detail 1 through detail 2, whatever's in B3. All right? So it is slicing still through and pulling data, even though the underlying sheets don't have the same structure exactly. They do, however, have the same structure left to right. So when I say column B, it represents the same FC in all of the sheets. Otherwise, you'll have chaos. So there's got to be a certain amount of consistency. But this is a neat trick when you are adding up totals like by department, and each department has different sets of numbers. We all are used to having totals at the bottom or at the right. Well, you could still put them there, but if you repeat them, in the top, and you can hide that row if you're not interested in seeing it, you can cheat and have your cover sheet full of totals. Otherwise, you won't be able to do it with a 3D formula. Yeah?
How do you insert this kind of formula?
Insert. What do you mean?
Rather than type it out and type in the names of the sheets, is there a shortcut? Like if we're on the same sheet, you would set equals and you would highlight that range.
Yeah, okay, everybody put your cursor on C3. Yeah. And how would you start a sum normally?
Equals.
How would you shortcut start a sum?
Alt equals.
Sigma. The sigma icon, don't tell me it's not here on the map. Sigma, where is it? On the homework.
On the top gray bar.
Right, top gray bar.
And to the right.
To my right.
Oh, yeah.
There it is. You hit the sigma. Whoops. Oh, come on. It starts to build a sum formula. Everybody got the sum formula starting there? Now it's making an assumption. The way it makes assumptions is it checks above it. If it doesn't find a match, if it finds a number, then it thinks you want to add numbers above it. If it doesn't find any numbers above it, then it checks to the left. And it looks for numbers. And in this case, it's finding the number to the left. So it's assuming that's what we want to add. But that's not what we want to add. As long as what it's guessing is highlighted, the very next thing you type will replace it. And here it takes a little bit of finesse to get it to work right. You have to first click on the first tab that's going to be summed. So I'm going to click, in this case, on the Finance tab. All right? The action of clicking on the Finance tab will replace the B3 with the name of the sheet. But it doesn't know what cell yet. So you have to then click on, did I pick the right one? I'm sorry, that was not the sheet we wanted. So I didn't click anything else, so it's detail 1 is the one. I apologize. So I click on detail 1, and until I've locked it, I can still pick anything I want. So now I'm on detail 1, but it still doesn't know what cell. So I want it to be, I must be in column F. I'm sorry, did I say B? I'm in column F. So let's hit column F. F, oh gosh, let me do this again. No, they don't have to, they have to be parallel, but they don't have to be the same cell. So let me start that again. I apologize, I'm having difficulty seeing it. It's a little small. So I'm going to sigma. I'm going to hit detail. And now, this is why I was confusing myself. It's not in column C. The numbers are actually in column F, but that's okay, as long as they're in the same order. So first click clicks detail, second click says column F. That's the start. Then I press and hold the shift key and click the last sheet, but not the cell. So I hit detail 3 and click. So it now has built the formula, sum of detail 1 colon detail 3, exclamation point F1. And then I'm going to hit enter, and now I've got my total. All right, and then you could copy that across. Yeah?
Sorry, so on detail 1, I go to the first row on column F.
And yes, because I'm trying to show you a lot of stuff here, that they have to be consistent, but they don't have to be the same. So even though I want the answer in column 3, it's the second set of numbers, which happens to be column F on all the detail sheets. You know, in this it's quick 2-hour session, I wanted you to see lots of different things.
And then control.
Then, not control, then shift and the last sheet, because you want everything between them. If you do control, it's just going to do the last sheet. Okay? And now, just because I like to use keyboard shortcuts, I want to copy this all the way across. All right? But I can't use that control all the way across because that's empty. But I can cheat. I'm going to do Command C, which highlights. Then I'm going to move my cursor up to where I have an unbroken range. Then I'm going to use Command right arrow, which brings me to the very edge. I'm going to go down, down, and then I'm going to do Shift Command left arrow, which will bring me back, but highlight at the same time. And then IV, and I've now pasted in all those cells at one time. So that's why I showed you all those shortcut keys in the beginning, because they really become useful as you start to build worksheets. Okay? So far, so good? Okay. End of 3D. Let's move on and let's talk about external links a little bit. All right? 3D are great when you have control over the whole sheet. But if you have 15 people working on files and you need to add them up, they should maybe be working each on their own file and you want to pull them up together. All right? And that's one reason, because then people can work on the same file at the same time. I mean, not the same file, but their own files at the same time. Another reason to use that would be if, you know, Mary is not supposed to be seeing Peter's budget. So they each have their own budget, but I'm in charge of adding up all the budgets. All right? So that would be a situation when you could not use a 3D formula with the files in the same workbook. You would have to have everybody have their own workbook. And in that case, they don't have to be exactly the same structure, but they should be similar. All right? So what I have done is, if we click onto the sheet called External Links, and let me try and make that bigger again so that you guys can see it better. All right? This is a very simple worksheet. And it actually is pulling data from another worksheet. It's pulling the salary and the office expense. And I'm going to try and show two different things at the same time. One is I want to show you how you can find the file it is linked to and open it and look at it. But then I'm also going to show you on the file that it is linked to, one of the formulas has been set to use a technique that will protect it from getting screwed up, and the other has not been. Okay, and the technique is range names. All right. So first question would be, how do I know what file it's linked to? Here we go with the Mac again. Okay. If we have a linked file, when you click to the Data tab, on the PC, the Data tab has a choice called Edit Links. Now, where is it on the Mac? Remember, you may have noticed I said everything works, but it's in a different place.
Next to file, go to edit and then links.
It's in the, that could be, yeah. Edit, yes, thank you. It's Edit Links on the PC. In the Mac, it's on the Edit menu under Links, okay? Links will not be available unless your file has something that it is linked to, okay? When you click Edit Links, now I see how they've configured the, okay, when you click Edit Links, you get a dialog box that shows you all of the files that this one is linked to. All right? Let's tell it to go open the source. So we can click the open source, and it will open the underlying file. Okay, I'm going to make this a teeny bit bigger. Let's just change on the underlying file where we have the wages for January are currently 100. Let's change that to be 900. And you'll notice instantly, because it's a linked file, our cover sheet, you know, from the original file changes. All right, that's no problem. I would like you all to click back to the sheet, the April sheet, close it, and save it. Because what really is going to happen is that the people in your organization that have the underlying sheets, they're going to change the sheet without telling you. So here we have our underlying, it doesn't matter about the numbers. They can change any number and it'll be no problem. When you open the sheet, the numbers will pull. But what they're going to do, which is going to screw you up, is they're going to insert rows or delete rows. So let's click on row 9 and add a new row. And let's make it travel. And let's give it some outlandish number like 77777 in January so that we would know if it's been changed. All right. And I'm going to also show you one part of this sheet is being sucked into the other file. It's only pulling in the total salary row or the total office expense row. One of those rows is protected with a range name and the other is not. All right? To find out which one has the range name, if we click on the left edge of the screen, kind of next to the formula bar where it says B10, that's our go-to box. And it will show you, I'm not going to explain how to make range names right now, but range names are the ability to put an English language name on any range. And then that name can be used in place of the range at any point. Okay? So it's telling me I've range named total salary. If I want to go there to see what it is, it shows me, yes, that's the section that was total salary. Okay, so total salary is range named, but office expense is not range named. All right, so let's see what happens. Let's close and save this file. And then let's go back and reopen the April file. Do we not have a list of open recent? Okay, let's go back and open your April file. Again, it's warning you, do we want to enable macros? That's for a little bit later, so say yes, let's enable them. And then it's going to warn you that we have links. Let's tell it to update the links, which would mean go and get the latest data. All right? But if I look at that sheet, the total salary seems to be correct. It's pulling in the 777777 because I had protected the salaries with a range name. So that this formula is referring to the range name total salary. It's not referring to the cell A6 or A7 or A8. All right? Unfortunately, we did not protect, and I did it deliberately obviously to show you the difference, we did not protect with a range name the office expense. So when we inserted a row, the office expense that had been row, I don't know, 6 or 7 became row 8. So, but this file was not open and didn't know that row 7 became row 8. It's still looking at row 7. So it's pulling whatever's in the old row 7. And this is how you have chaos when the underlying files are changed without having the other calling files be opened. If I was in charge of all the files and I had all the files open at the same time, it would have been no problem because it would have been smart enough to shift. But once the top program is closed, it doesn't know what's happening to the underlying programs until it reopens them. And so then it winds up pulling the wrong data. And in this case, you might not even know it's the wrong data until you suddenly report that you have far less expenses when you really have more expenses, but you're referring to the wrong row. Okay? So those are just a couple of little hints on external links. We'll do certainly much more on that when we have if you come to the full session, because we have a lot more stuff to talk about. Okay? Let's move on and let's look at some other formulas. Do we take a break, by the way, or should I just keep going? Okay.
No break.
No break, then I need to have a drink of water. Let's click to the next tab, which is the VLOOKUP tab. All right. How many people have used this thing called lookup? Oh, good. All right. How many different variations do we have of VLOOKUPs? How many?
2.
2. And what's the differences?
Vertical and horizontal.
Anybody care to contest that?
You can find an exact match or the nearest match.
Yeah, there really are 4 variations. Vertical means search down, horizontal means search across. But within each of the 2, each of them can either be an inexact match or an exact match. Okay? What we're looking at right now is a vertical lookup. They function exactly the same way, except one is vertical, one is horizontal. Okay? There are 2 pieces to make a VLOOKUP work. You need a table that you're going to search through, which is what the stuff on the top is. This is a table where we have units. We're a vendor and we sell things and we give people volume discounts. Okay? If they buy between 0 and 99, we charge them $21. That's what the price is telling me. If they buy between 0 and 99, we've paid $17 per unit. Okay? So if they buy 401 units, we're going to charge them $16.33, and we only have to pay $14.11. It's a stepped kind of lookup when it's an inexact match. All right? And volume discounts are one common use of stepped lookups. Can anybody think of another one?
Grading?
Yes, grading. That's a good example. You know, if you've got I'm going to start at the top. Now, 100 to 90 is an A, 89 to 80 to 80 would be a B, et cetera, so they have steps. Post office. I know we don't use mail too much anymore, but the post office charge is up to a half an ounce, one fee. Up to 1 ounce, another fee. Up to 1.5 points, another. So it's a stepped mode. And there's one more that everybody uses all the time. And what's today's date? Today's April 3rd. What's going to happen April 15th? Taxes. The tax table is another situation. You earn between this and that, you pay a certain amount. This and that, you get charged a certain amount. And in the tax table, there's another piece that we have to know, and that is, am I single? Am I head of household? Am I married? Am I joint? The tax table actually has lots of columns, and depending upon what my status is, I pull out from the appropriate column. And when I describe that, now I've described the VLOOKUP, all right? So I can have the table be really, really long down and really, really wide, and I can use it in lots of different places. All right, I'm going to use it very simply here right now. If you put your cursor down at the lower section is my sales for the month. All right, on one day I sold 50,000 to one person and 50 to another person and 110 to another person. So in the formula, if you put your cursor on B19, you'll see there is a vertical lookup formula. And this formula is telling the system to take the value that's right next to it, A19, and use that as the searching value for the table. And then we tell it where the table is, and we're telling it the table is between A5 and C15, the entire table. Not the headings, because we're not interested in the headings. All right? Then the third argument is the number 2, which is telling it which column we want to pull from. So for the prices, we're going to want to pull from column 2. For the costs, which column are we going to want to pull from? 3, okay? And then the fourth parameter, which is the word true right now, is optional for an inexact match. But if you're going to put it in for an inexact match, it needs to be true. And that tells it you want to search the table, starting at the top, working your way down, find the highest value that's less than or equal to the value that you're matching, which suggests to you that the table has to be sorted. Yeah?
The columns are labeled with letters. Is there a way to find, like when you get into bigger spreadsheets and it's like AB or RX or whatever it is there a way to find what the index is of that letter combination?
You mean the number 2, 3, or 4, whatever that kind of thing?
Yeah, like let's say
I'm going to show you a shortcut in a couple minutes, but there's not an easy way to find it. You have to use another formula, okay? Before we get there, though, I'm going to go back to, all right, let's try and copy this formula down. And I'm going to use Control-C and just highlight down, 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 down. And I'm going to also try and copy it across. And you'll see that when I copied it across, well, down is working perfectly, all right? So I've got, if I bought 50 units, it would be $21 a unit for the price. But unfortunately, the cost part is not working for me, right? The cost is still giving me the pricing, right? And that's because the third parameter, the 2 or the 3 or the 4 or the 5, which relates to this gentleman's question, is not dynamic. It's literally a hard-coded number. So if you're going to copy the formula across, you're going to have to go in manually and change it. I mean, there are some other techniques, one of which we're going to see, but there are many different techniques. All right? So does everybody see what that problem is? So I'm going to go and edit the formula. Just go right into the formula in C19, and let's just edit that and change the 2 to a 3, because it's really the third column. Whoops. And then that formula needs to be copied down. All right, and now I have a true calculation. Yeah.
Since we're speaking about VLOOKUPs.
Yeah.
Quick question. I find that a lot of times you end up with inaccurate information.
Inaccurate information?
Yeah, maybe it's over-inclusive or under-inclusive with the data that it's gathering. Like the same way you had to change the hard-coded. Is there ever really a reason to use a VLOOKUP over like a nested index match?
Oh, absolutely. It's much faster.
So okay, so.
And it's more flexible.
Is it?
Yeah.
Faster, like in computing time.
Yeah. I mean, you can, and it's a cleaner formula.
Can we talk later?
Yeah, okay. But there is a technique, just like what you're talking about, where you have nested, you can have a match. It's not just an index match, okay? All right, so let's look at the other example, the next tab, because there are lots of ways to get around that, all right? Let's click on the tab called VLOOKUP Inexact Match More Flexible, all right? I'm going to make it bigger again. And I'm going to flip back into formula mode. And this is the kind of thing that the lady in the back wanted to try and improve. The hard-coded number 2 or 3 is a pain in the neck, because when you copy it, it doesn't work. But if, and there's a lot of different techniques, I'm just showing you one technique right now. If you have the situation where the heading of the column that you're working in matches the heading of the table, then you can use another function called a match function, which works kind of close to the VLOOKUP, but only will search one range. So I have this function, you'll see embedded in this function, you see instead of having the number 2, we have a function called match. Let me make this a little bigger still. All right, and scroll this up a little bit. All right, so here, instead of having the hard-coded number 2, I have a function called match. And so match says, go and take the heading, which is in B18, price/unit, and search the range A4 through C4, which is the headings of the lookup table. The result of the match will give you the number of the column that matched. So, you know, if it's the 15th column, you get 15. If it's the 27th column, you get 27. So this is a very simple way to do what you were asking, as long as the headings match. All right, there are other techniques, but this is the one I'm just going to describe right now. Okay? When we use this match, now if I copy this formula, and I copy it again across and down the way I did earlier, it is, whoops.
I think you have to get rid of the dollar sign.
Wait, where did I put a dollar sign? I'm sorry. I may have done. Let me just go back. Yes, there should be no dollar sign in front of the V. I apologize. Let me undo that. Hold on. Control Z. Okay. You're right. In this case, I accidentally in the dollar sign in front of the match, the first dollar sign in front of the B, what does that mean? Absolute, but what does that mean in English?
It's always B.
It means when I copy this, keep this column always B, which I inadvertently did. I didn't mean to do that. But when I copy to C, I want it to be C. So I need to get the dollar sign off of that one. That was inadvertent. Even experts make a mistake, right? Okay, so now I'm going to copy that. Go back to normal mode here. Okay, so I can see better. And let's copy the formula from the price, Control C, and copy it into the 2 columns. That's not right. Okay, I did something else wrong.
Can you use 0 for the last parameter for match?
Well, that's what true is.
Or you got a match?
I think you're right. You want exact match.
Here's
right?
a dollar.
Well, after the C4, you need a comma 0.
Yeah, in the match.
Okay, yes. Thank you. I don't know how that got lost in there. After the C4. We need the 4th parameter, which is not optional in this case, of 0 or true. Okay, let's do this one more time. I apologize. Voila. I apologize. The match just like the VLOOKUP if you has a fourth parameter that if you leave it out, it works a different way, and I inadvertently left it out. So, but once you have it set up right now, I could copy it across 1,000,000 columns, and it would be correct as long as the column headings match the headings in the table. So it makes the VLOOKUP much more flexible. All right. There's a second variation on the lookups, and that would be for an exact match. All right. So if you let's click to the tab, the next tab here, which is VLOOKUP exact match. And let's make it a little bit bigger. And you might want to use an exact match in the situation where you have a list. And you want to match exactly values in your list. So in this case, let me make this again a little wider. I want to pull out the bottom, and I'm putting it at the bottom for training purposes, but it might be another sheet somewhere completely different. I want to tell the system, when I plug in employee ID 121 or 124, I want to find all the values that relate to 124. I want to pull the last name, I want to pull the first name, I want to pull the salary. All right? And if I plug in 114, I want to pull all those values for 114, but I want an exact match. If I type 113, which doesn't happen to be in the table, I don't want to pull 112. I don't want to match unless it's an exact match. Okay? So I'm going to take a quick look at that VLOOKUP formula. And again, I'll make it wider so we can see it better. And the structure is exactly the same as the other VLOOKUP formula. Can you see it on your, if you make your columns wider? All right. What's different about this formula? The false, right. The fourth parameter is not optional when you want an exact match. If you want an exact match, you have to use the word false. All right? And we could build in, just like I said earlier, a match. You know, you could change the number 2 and you could come up with a formula that says compare the column on the left to the heading on the top and, you know, count how many columns it is. You could do all that, but I didn't want to make this so complicated to show you right now. So the key piece of information that I want you to pull out from an exact match is that you have to put in the fourth parameter. It is not optional. All right? When you put in the fourth parameter, let's change the number, that 124, and let's make it 106. Oh, 106 exists. Yeah, 999. 999 does not exist. All right, make it 999. When you are asking it to be an exact match, and you put in a value that's not in the table, you get an NA. All right. If you have an inexact match, and you put a value that's not exactly in the table, it depends on where it is what you get. With an inexact match, if you put a value that's higher than the highest value, you get the highest value, the results of the highest value, because the way it works is it's finding the highest value that's less than or equal to. If you put in a value that's lower than the lowest value in the table, then you get an NA. All right, so you could get an NA with an inexact match. All right?
So if
Yeah.
for an inexact match, if it's not sorted ascending,
You'll get completely wrong answers.
Yeah.
That's exactly right. It won't give you an error. It'll give you the highest value that it, because what it does is it starts at the top and it searches, searches, searches until it hits a value that's higher than the one you want. And then it stops. So if it's not sorted, I mean, you may occasionally get the right answer if the first few are sorted, but once it gets out of sequence, you'll get the wrong answer without getting any errors. So it's critical that if you are doing an inexact match, the first column, which is the search column, has to be sorted. And if it was a horizontal, so an H lookup, then it would be the top row has to be sorted. Okay, that's critical. Yeah.
So, you know, I've read a bunch of places that when you do a VLOOKUP, that left column has to be sorted. Is that only true
Only
if
for
you're doing
inexact
an
matches, because
okay.
you'll see here, those numbers clearly are not sorted
Yeah.
for the exact
Yeah.
match. And it doesn't matter. If I put 110 instead of 999, I will get Suyama. So for an exact match, it doesn't have to be. Okay? continue on, and let's go to the next tab here, which is logical functions. All right, how many people have used logical functions? All right, you've got if functions. Right? And what's the point of an if function?
If it's true, return one value. If it's not, return another.
Right. The if function will let us put different results in a cell depending upon a question. All right, and the plain vanilla if would be only two choices. All right, and here we have a classic example of when we might need to use a plain vanilla if. All right, this is a particular worksheet where we're adding up. We have lots of different kinds of work, and at the bottom of the worksheet, actually there's two pieces here. Let's look at the top piece first. We have different categories of work: consulting, administrative work, and other. And we want to calculate what percentage of the gross total each kind of work is. All right. So if we look at the formula that is in C6, we have a formula that says take the row above, which is the kind of work it is, and divide it by the total. Right? If we happen to be in a month like February, where we haven't yet put any values, then our total is 0. And mathematically, you can't divide by 0, so we get a div 0. All right? Now, that may be all right for yourself, but you have to present this to somebody else. You can't give them a worksheet that has div 0 on it. They'll go crazy. And also, the div 0 propagates. So there might be a div 0 here, and there might be 57 different places where they're referring to it. All the others are going to have div 0. So we want to avoid a div 0. Now, if it was an error, then you'd want to see the div 0. But in this case, it's legitimate that we might not have a value. So if we don't have any values for the month, we just don't want it to do the division. So we can build an if function, which is what I actually have done in the March column. So let's look at the formula in the March column. And in the March column, we say if D14, D is the column that we're currently in, 14 is the total row, and here you see we do have the partial absolute, which was the mistake I made on the prior sheet by accident. The column we want to shift, the D, the E, the F, all right? So if D14, meaning the total, is 0, then there's comma. And then I have my true value, which is 0. I want to just see 0. But we could put anything there. We could put text. If we put text, we put quotes around it. We could put another formula, or we could have a value. So in this case, I want to see 0. If D14 is not 0, then I want to do my division. And I just take my D5 divided by my D14. All right? And so that's the way that we avoid having a divide by 0 error. And this is a classically badly designed worksheet, but I see this all the time. People start up a worksheet, and now in this case, let's pretend. All right, so January has numbers, okay. People start to say, oh, February. They see there's an error in February. Now they realize, oh, I got to put my if function. So they put the if function in February, and they don't copy it all the way across. And then down the road a piece, maybe November has an error. And so you wind up having lots of different formulas in the same row. Be consistent. So formulas in the same row are the same. Otherwise, down the road, you're going to wind up having a lot of chaos. So it's given that the March is the correct formula, let's just all copy the March formulas. And I'm going to use my fancy technique of control. I'm going to go left, control, shift, command, right, highlight all the places where the formula should be, and then paste. And so now I have, at least for row 6, I've updated the formulas all the way across. And you could paste it down, 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 but I don't want to take the time to do that. Okay? Does that make sense? Most of you used ifs. But sometimes we have more than two choices. All right? If I have a 0, then that means I had no cost. But suppose I have a blank. And a blank means I didn't yet get my numbers. This is very critical when you have budgeting. You know, when you start with the budget, a blank means you don't have any numbers. If you plug all zeros, you don't know whether it's supposed to be a 0 budget or whether you just didn't get the numbers. So we like to have blanks to indicate we don't yet have the numbers yet, and zeros meaning we don't have a budget for that category. All right? You can't do that with just a single if. But you can distinguish those by having nested ifs And in this particular situation, we can make a nested if that uses an informational if command, logical command, to test the contents of another cell. So let's go back and look at the formulas one more time. And let's look at the formulas below, which is exactly the same kind of worksheet, but it's going to have 3 levels of formulas. So look at your cursor on, let me make this bigger. The formula in F23 would be good. All right. So the formula in F23 now is a nested if, meaning I have one if within another if. But the first if says if is blank B20, meaning I don't have any numbers yet. So if B20 is empty, then I don't want to see a 0. I want to see the function called NA. Right? And we use the function called NA so it doesn't cause errors later on when we're doing calculations. If you literally put text NA, then later on if you're doing calculation, it would treat that as text and could cause errors depending upon the kind of calculation you're doing. All right? So here's where we have our nesting. The first if says if it's blank, if B20 is blank, then put NA. Then there's a comma. Now we have the otherwise, and we have the second if, which is the nested if. Because we've eliminated the blanks, now we only have 2 more choices. If it's not blank, then it's either 0 or not 0. So then we have our original if with the 2 choices. So we're saying if it's blank, put NA. Otherwise, check to see if the total is 0. If the total is 0, just put 0. Otherwise, do the division. Okay? Let's go back and look at the answers and let's test it out. So let's actually clear the value that's currently in the January, which would be B20. Just delete that value. And when you move off the cell to get it saved, then you get an NA for that particular value. So now you know NA, I mean you could have put the word missing or something else if you wanted to alert yourself that you needed to go get the information. But for those values that have a 0, like February, we're getting a 0% because that means we didn't actually have any values for that category. And so this is a simple example to show how you can use logical functions and informational functions to do fairly complicated comparisons. And let me say technically you can nest, I believe, up to 32 levels of ifs. But I'm going to suggest to you that when you get beyond 4, you're going to be really, asking for trouble, because if you miss a comma or you miss a parentheses, Excel parses it the way it thinks it should be parsed, which might be completely wrong. All right? So I would avoid nesting beyond 4 unless I was really very careful. And what you could do would be build all of the ifs separately and then later plug them together to make them nested, but that way you know each if is correct. All right? But don't try and build a 32 level nested if unless you really want to drive yourself crazy. Okay, moving along. All right, we good so far? Okay, let's move to the next, which is a little bit of graphing. Let's click on the tab called Overlay Chart. How many people have created charts? Okay, it's fairly straightforward to create a simple chart. You highlight the data, you hit the icon to create the chart, and it makes a chart that you then can customize. Okay, here we have exactly the same set of information is being graphed in 2 different kinds of charts. One is really good, one stinks. All right? Which one is a good chart and which one stinks, even though they are telling you exactly the same information? The one on the left is better. Why?
Because you change the formatting so it's easier to read.
Right. All right. What we're comparing here are different categories of expenses: salary, overtime, other compensation, rent, etc. And we have this year's budget, actual, and next year's projected, but we're also comparing the variance as a percentage. All right? And the variance as a percentage is a whole other animal. All right? It's not the same scale, it's not the same values. In the chart on the right, we've charted it, but we didn't change the way it looks, so it's very misleading to the reader. The reader's going to look at it and say, what is this thing floating all over the chart? By simply changing the type of the type of chart that one element is, we then make this chart an overlay they call it an overlay because it really is two charts, one on top of the other. And by changing the look of that one series of data, and it could be several, but in our case it's one, we tell the reader two things. All right? Variance is a different animal, plus it has a different scale. So you'll notice there's the scale on the left is in actual numbers, the scale on the right is in percentages. So visually you see there's a difference because it's a line and because it has a separate scale. So you can understand more quickly what the chart is. All right? And it's really very simple once you have the basic chart set up to change it. So if you all just click on the green, on the chart on the right, on any one of the green bars. All right? When you click on any element in a chart, you wind up with a new set of tools in your ribbon that relate to the chart. And what we want to tell it, and if you look on your screen, on your ribbon, we need to be on the ribbon called chart layout, which is the one that I'm currently on. Chart, which one am I on? Chart? Yeah, chart layout. And it's on the extreme left, we have the ability to pick a different type of chart. And because I only have one data set highlighted, it will only change that one data set. So I can now tell the system make that a line. And when I do that, I now have made my chart on the right look like my chart on the left. Very simple change. There's lots of other things you can do with that, but this is just to give you a sense of the kinds of things you can do with the chart. Okay? In addition, let's click on the data on the next chart. Is another simple kind of chart. And again, we're not going to do all of these changes here today, but I want to give you a sense of what kinds of things we might talk about and also what power is. But on the left-hand side, this is actually, again, the same set of data being graphed. In this case, we're graphing 2 points of data. All right? The other chart, we were graphing only the values. In this case, we're graphing the return versus the investment of the return versus the investment amount. And this is what a typical XY chart that you might have created in grammar school. You know, when we were in grammar school and we were learning how to chart, we had 2 points and we went here and we picked that and we went here and we picked that and picked a particular chart. In Excel, most of the charts aren't that way. Most of the charts have one value and one word, category. But this particular kind of chart has 2 values. It's an XY scatter chart. All right? If you choose the default, which is the one that we get on the left-hand side, the chart on the left-hand side is what you would get when you first create the chart. It simply is giving you the points all scattered along, and yeah, that's a chart. But when we talk, a lot of times when we talk in finance or we talk in marketing, we want to have how is our data segmented, right? In the right-hand side, if you look on your screen, you probably can see it a little bit better. With a few simple you can see the points are in the same position on the chart, but with a few simple modifications, by turning off all the grid lines and simply putting selected lines, and by changing the data points to something a little more obvious, and by putting on data labels, we now can tell our reader that in this segment, larger investments, this is the investment choice, but lower returns. In this corner, we have larger investments, but bigger returns. In this corner, we have smaller investments and smaller returns. And in this corner, we have smaller investments, but bigger returns. So we often segment data in this quadrants so we get a better sense of how our investments work. And just to give you a little taste, it's not that difficult to go from chart 1 to chart 2, but we'll just see one little thing that we can do. In chart 1, if you click on any one of the data points, and then we click to the chart layout ribbon, and we choose the choice date we choose the choice, come on, data labels. I don't know why the mouse keeps getting locked up on me. Yeah. Yeah, and then reopen the chart layout ribbon. Yeah. Okay, choose data labels, and let's choose data labels options just so you can see what all the choices are. Let's tell it we want to see the X value and the Y value, and then click OK. And now you're going to say to me, that's not what we see text-wise, and you're right. The defaults that you get in Excel are only that you can put the values. But you can cheat. Once you've plopped the labels in, you can change the text in the labels, and they will stay attached to the data points. So if you move the data points by changing the values, the labels will change as well. So that is how we convert to the second. So if you just double click on, and oops, sorry, not that, click cancel. And just click into the data point and just erase what's text there and just type in decimal 3 or something. And just literally erase what's there. All right. So that label is now attached to the point, even if the point moves anywhere over. So that's a way to cheat, to have labels that are not necessarily the values that Excel wants to show, but they stay attached to the chart. So that's just a little technique in charting, and obviously there's some others as we go. Yeah, we're gonna wrap up really quickly. It's getting a little late. All right, so let's take a quick. How many people have used data summarizations in any shape, manner, or form from lists? If we click onto the data summarization chart tab, here we have lots of lists, and Excel gives you a whole bunch of preset filtering abilities. By turning on the filters, you can turning filters on. You can ask it to give you subsets of any given list. All right, that's, I don't know if people have used that to any extent, but we can easily tell the system to filter our list by using the drop downs. All right, but that's one way to slice and dice. If we scroll to the bottom of this list, however, we see that there are several different variations of formulas that we can use on this list. Let's filter this list just so we can see the effect. Click on the client and just pick turn off select all and just turn on climb. All right? So we have our list currently filtered. All right? So we're only looking at climb. You'll notice in the yellow subtotals there are different values. And I'm going to flip into my formula mode. The normal sum formula always looks at every cell in the range, even if it's hidden. The special subtotal formula can be told to use those that are hidden or not. And the special subtotal formula can be not just sums. That's number 9 means it's a sum and ignore the hidden values. But if you go into help, you'll see there's 9 choices. There's really 18 choices. You know, you can do average, deviation, sum, max, min. And if you use the numbers 1 through 9, it means ignore the hidden cells. If you use the numbers 100 to 109, it means include the hidden cells, in which case you get the same result as if you had a sum. Okay? So the subtotal is one variation of formula that you can use to pull data out of the total if you have a dynamic filter. All right? In the lower section of this worksheet, I just show you a couple of other ways that we might be able to pull data out. We can build dynamic criteria. Okay, so here we have a criteria where we're looking for the sales department, and in the red section we have totals that are relating to the sales department only. It doesn't matter what's being shown, we're going to get the complete total. It doesn't matter what's filtered or not. All right, let's just change the value that's in A158. There's a little drop down there. It's a validation. Change it to the planning department, and the minute you change it to the planning department, all the totals will adjust for the planning department. So that's another way we can aggregate. And then the third way that we can aggregate through formulas is down in the lower section, and this formula gets is a tricky, a neat formula because it uses a combination of array formulas and if formulas to calculate the results for more than one cell. So, for example, in the median, when we're calculating a median, if we want to calculate the median for each and every department, if you don't know how to do this technique, you have to sort it, put it together, do a value, and then do a median, do a median, do a median, which in fact I have on the upper right-hand side of this worksheet if you look at it. Whole bunches of formulas somewhere in here. I'm not going to worry too much about it. If you want dynamic formulas, though, you can combine. I'm going to put this back into formula mode. And make this column a little bit bigger so you can see the formula. I'm not going to explain the entire formula right now, but to let you know it's a combination of an if formula that says if the value to the left, meaning planning or info technology or finance, is the same as the value in the database, then include it in my calculation. Otherwise, leave it empty. That's what the if portion is showing you. You see, if the values are the same, include it. Otherwise, leave it empty. That's what the empty quotes are. Because when you're calculating a median, you don't want to include any values that are not part of it because they'll throw off your median. You can't say 0 because that'll bring your median down. So that if formula is going to give you, well, if it was simply an if formula, it would give you one result. But we want the system to add up all of the ifs at one time and then take the median. And we do that by telling the system that this is an array formula, which when we edit the formula and save it, we use Control-Shift-Enter, which tells the system to evaluate the if formula for every result and then calculate the median. And so that's a neat trick because the median formula is not available any other way in an aggregate. It's not one of the formulas you can download or put in a pivot table or anything like that. So this is one of the few ways to get a median for dynamically changing departments. And we can, you can take a look at it in more detail. All right?
Mary?
Yeah.
In the longer class, do you cover array formulas in more detail?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. I mean, I'm giving you a taste of what 20 hours will cover. All right? Right now, I'm not trying to teach. I mean, I'm trying to show you. But I'm not going to, I'm explaining what I can explain within a short duration of time, okay? All right? Let's move on to the pivot tables.
Sorry,
Yeah.
question. I noticed you had a formula called dsum under the highlighted in pink.
Yeah.
What is that one?
Okay, the dsum is a formula that is using the criteria that we have set up on the left. On the left-hand side, I set up a criteria that said, I want to pull the department called planning. And so when I plugged in planning, I was telling it to go search the database for the column department, find everything that matched planning, and give me the sum. dsum means domain aggregate. And so in the dsum formula, it's the dsum formula is look through the database, and here we've named it sample database. Match on the field, column E7 is the one I'm adding, and use the criteria and only give me those matches. So sample criteria is range name, sample database is range name, and then the value in column E is the one I'm looking for.
How do you look up the range name?
How do you look up the range name? You can, on the left-hand side, we have a go-to button, and when you click that drop-down button, it'll show you all the range names, okay? Yeah. Okay, last thing, we won't bother with pivot tables right now. Let's to give you a little bit of a sense of macros. Let's go to the tab called macros. First macro, click on the tab called, let's click on the tab called first macro. This is a macro that is going to ask you to open a file and reformat the file and create a new tab out of it. So let's click the button that says click to reformat the file. Okay, and then it pops up and it wants to know what file do you want to pull. Okay, where did we put those other files? We looked in, what folder are the other files in? We're gonna pull a file called names that has name and address all one under each other, and it's gonna parse it so that they are put into separate columns. The first one is fine. Names, either one of the names is fine. And when you click open, it should run the file. It has gone and, well, we'll look at the file in a second. Notice the file, what we have now on the output is the name of the company followed by the location, followed by a breakout of the city, state, and zip. Okay, see that's what the result is. Let's close and reopen names to see what we started with. Just close and then just reopen it. Oh, don't save. Yeah, okay. Okay. Just reopen it and you'll just see what it looks like.
Thank you.
Yeah, okay.
1 second.
Just open names. The original file had the company followed by the location, company, location, and it parsed it, separated them, moved them to a new column, and parsed it out into city, state, and zip. So that macro has the ability to open a file, check the contents, move things around, parse them, and then produce a new output and loop. So those are different techniques that we would use. So this was the original file, was a single column list. And the macro went to the list, looked at the top, worked its way down, stopped when it came to the bottom, and basically reformed it. I'm sorry that we had a little bit of rush, but I hope that you feel that you got some techniques out of this.
Thank you.
Guys, we have a traditional called moment of choose. You will upload or download for today's event, and Mary won't be looking at you.
All right, I'll go outside and you can...
No, you won't be here.
Oh, I can
you
be here. Oh, okay.
As long as you're here, it's good.
Okay.
Guys,
Do I have to face
Mary-
here? Okay.
Yes,
okay.
we're voting. Good or bad? Very good. Super good. Okay. Is everyone voting? Awesome. 1, 2, 3. Thank you. Good job tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I will make the videos available on the website so we can review it later. Thank you for coming.
I posted this on meetup.com/spreadsheets. So I don't know if anybody came from my link.
I did.
Did you?
Yeah,
Oh, great. I'm glad I got somebody in here.
You post the files?
Yeah, I did too, and that's why I had them downloaded before we started, so I could just click in instead of going into an
Yeah, it's nice to see.
You're Frank.
Yeah, it's nice to see different ways to teach this. Alpha's very good too, but
This is the first class I've managed to get to after all. I've been on Meetup for like 2 years.
I think you chose a good one because Alfred starts in the middle and he's mostly the VBA.
I don't use very much, but all this stuff is it's what I do.
Did you learn a lot or learn just fine?
I wish I'd seen this 2 years ago.
I learned a little
I
bit.
must have the hard way.
I thought this one and the other class were very good that you had.
Which one?
The first one that you had?
Oh, the first one?
Yeah, they're both very good. I learned.
Yeah, we combine them into a 20-hour intensive class. So if you take the class, you need to do project to demonstrate what you learn.
Okay.
Otherwise, you don't have graduation certificate.
So when is the longer class?
This one?
Yeah.
Okay.
When's the long version of this? Is it on your
It
website?
starts on
Oh, good to see you.
April
I'm gonna write something
19th.
down.
I noticed.
If you go to Meetup website, tonight's event,
I came provided
the
for.
first
Right,
three
I did
line,
already.
this is the event. If you
And I
click on
figured
see
that.
all, this is the link you can sign up for the class. Or you can sign up with me.
Amazing, fast.
850. 45 weekend.
Wow.
Bye.
Thank you very much. Have a great day.
Well, if you do it correctly.
Oh, I'm not again, excuse me.
Bye, Minnie.
These versions of Excel are much faster
Wow.
because they're accommodating everything else, so you probably wouldn't notice the difference, but it's a cleaner look because you don't have a gazillion ranges. So it's
Are you related? Yeah, you look very like a picture.
Holiday.
Holiday.
I saw you on the list.
Are you Ben?
I'm Ben.
Do you have a question for me?
Okay,
Sir?
great.
The name range is not really, the name range is wouldn't help. The name ranges are a technique to make the video
How
go
to do
on.
that?
You make this the one you're broadcasting to join me?
Yes, I tried to do that. The problem is I can't start doing this.
Oh.
Otherwise, we
Okay.
would do that.
I was gonna say, then you could run it.
Yeah,
through here.
in the past we run into the same problem, so we just use the Windows machine as the host. And I like to share, join, and meetups, so yeah. But somehow it doesn't come up.
Is there a restroom?
Yes, it's right behind the red wall.
Thank you. Have a great day.